Hi, this is Matt Kendall, and today I'm joined by Shila, who did my IEMT training in February. It's currently June time. We're in lockdown still. So I thought, rather than just sit around doing nothing, I'll do some more interviews with people who have been through the training, because anyone who sort of knows me, I'm not like hypey, trying to sort of get people into IEMT. I like to give people a realistic view of what IEMT is like, to have like the experience of IEMT, of being on the weekend, and what it's like for somebody who uses IEMT. Sheila has recently done her case studies and worked with people, so we're going to find all about that. So Sheila, welcome to our possibly unsuccessful Zoom recording. We're having a few tech issues like everyone does with Zoom. So Sheila, before we get into it, what were you doing before IEMT? What kind of work were you doing? So just give us a bit of your sort of backstory that led you to finding out about IEMT and coming on the course.
Yeah, hi Matt. Yeah, before I did the IEMT, I was an NLP trainer. I was a master practitioner. I was doing a whole host of positive thinking courses and teaching them as a mentor, life coach, counsellor, healer, various things like that. And I kind of combined a lot of different therapies together, and a lot of them seemed to work, but they never really, all of them combined, didn't seem to get to the core issues or some of the things that are happening within myself, but also with clients. And then I knew Gemma Bailey, who was how I heard about it myself. And I remember receiving an email from her, and it was just before Christmas last year, when life was normal. And she there's a taster session that you were offering about IEMT, and I hadn't heard of IEMT at that point. I had heard of other techniques that people do with trauma, but anyway, it intrigued me, and I hadn't always gone on her courses at all, actually, at that point, even though we're trained together. But something very much did pique my interest, so I came onto the course.
And this was the webinar, wasn't it? Yeah.
This was the webinar, yes.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it and thinking, God, this sounds amazing, and this could be life-changing. And I know you were doing a discount at the time, and so I signed up there and then. And what I liked was your flexibility, that you didn't have to do it the very month that next month. You could do it a few months after. So that was really helpful to me. In fact, that was one of the things that enabled me to do it, because I was able to be flexible with my payment and do it in February. So that's how I heard about it. I heard about it through Gemma, and really glad I did.
So when we did the webinar, it was just basically like an introduction to IEMT webinar I did with Gemma Bailey, as you were saying. And we did an online little demo. How did you find that, just doing the online demo?
Again, I remember thinking of something which now, because it's gone, I can't remember it properly.
Yeah.
But I do remember it shifting quite quickly, and I thought, wow, how does that work? And you were trying to explain how it all works in the mind and the brain, and some of it didn't completely make sense at the time, but I just thought, oh, okay, there's definitely something to this, and I just found it incredibly powerful, and I couldn't believe how quickly it shifted, just literally within a minute or two.
Yeah.
So that again was, gosh, this could be incredibly life-changing for everyone.
So you came on, so the IEMT Practitioner is a 2-day course, as you know, and you already had a rich history in change work and NLP, and you were saying you like counselling and stuff like that. So how did you find the weekend course? How did you find the materials, the using IEMT? What was your experience of going through the weekend like?
I really, really enjoyed the weekend. I attended it with my sister, which made it extra special for me, because she really wanted to learn about it as well. I found the fact it was quite a small group, as in not like 100 people in the room, but it was somewhere between 10 and 20, I'd say. I like
Yeah, I think it was about 12, 14 I usually do in that room. Yeah. So it's,
Yeah, I liked the intimacy of the fact that it was a small group, and it felt really safe in the sense of you could really explore things together. It felt very more personalized as well, having that smaller group. I thought the venue was great because it was so accessible, near King's Cross, and I liked the way it was taught. It was kind of, we covered everything we needed to cover, but it was done in a very, at times, very informal, relaxed way because the way that you deliver. And I think that made it easier to take in the learning as well.
Excuse me. Yeah, the way that I try to sort of teach is so as you know, the first hour and a half or something is a lot of the theory and what we call the patterns of chronicity. So how we work with clients, how we spot where we're going to work with them. And then generally the way that I tend to work is I will explain a concept, I'll demonstrate a concept, you then practice it, and then we review it. And once everybody's up to speed, we then move on to the next segment. And the way that I teach the weekend is the way that I work with a client. It's everything from the opening demo through to the end, which is the accessing cues and the physical stuff, which people don't need to know about at this point. So when I work with clients, everything we do on Saturday is my session 1. Everything we do on Sunday is session 2. So to eye movement therapy, apart from the webinar, what's your take on eye movement therapy, IEMT, the protocols, and what was it like to experience it in the room and what you witnessed to the people doing and experiencing as well?
Yeah, I thought it was a very powerful modality itself, and there was only probably about 5 or 6 techniques that we learned, but when you brought them all together, they were really, really, it was almost like a full package. All you needed to know, if you could master those properly, you had the whole toolkit that you needed really to work effectively with a client. And there were some parts of it that I really enjoyed more, in the sense of I kind of got them really quickly, and there were others where I found a little bit more challenging, like the identity work. That was just because of how I was processing the information. But what I liked was the fact that we could keep going out into breakout rooms and we could keep practicing with other people, and we didn't have to be perfect. We just needed to give it a go. And how you would come over and just guide us and correct us, so that by the time, even by the morning, I was already starting to feel confident in how I was working with it. And by day 2, I remember leaving there thinking, well, I'm ready to go with this. I really, really loved the teaching, and then the demos, and then the practice, but also working with different people with their stories. So you'll get different challenges with what somebody was bringing, and it might not fit your idea of the model of what you've just learned, but it kind of stretched you as well, because then you would have to think a bit more about things like, how can I deal with this? So that's what I loved about it.
That's what I like to do, is I like to give people a lot of practical experience. So it's not just theory, and when you then do it with a client, you're like, what I want you to, so every thing that we do, I try to get you to do it a couple of times and with different people, because in the real world, the person isn't going to know how to react because they've not done the training. So I want to give you as much practical experience. Okay, so you did the training, did the 2-day training, and then as part of the certification process, you go and work with 2 clients for 2 one-hour sessions. So tell me, what was it like taking this set of tools and techniques and this sort of, not a mindset, but I suppose it's the patterns of chronicity is like a bit like a methodology, I suppose. So how did you do your sessions online? Did you do them in person? How did you find them? What was it like?
Okay.
There's a lot of questions there.
So that's okay. I've got them. So firstly, I was all ready to go, as I mentioned. And then I kind of got into a state of not doing them initially because life happened, and then it was a case of you just need to get on with it. So I didn't do them straight away, but I think that helped me in a way because it made me go back and look at the material again. I initially did somebody at work who didn't want to continue with it because they didn't want to experience any further sadness, which I found surprising. But then I remember you saying that it won't be everyone's cup of tea, and so that was fine. So after that, COVID happened, and so I wasn't able to do it face to face with a person. But then, thankfully, we were able to do it online with people, and so I quite quickly found 2 people who were willing to be clients. One was somebody I knew in Sweden, and another one was a friend that I've got in London. And so I did sessions with both of them, and so it was about making sure that, because when you're in a room you can use your hand movements quite more freely, but on Zoom you're kind of in this little thing. So that was good practice in thinking how I'm going to work with international clients, because that's what I want to do. Is, you know, if they're not in a room, you can still get the hand movements going. You're not thinking you have to be physically in a room with them. So that was really great practice for me. And as if anything, when you do something first time, you're having to trust yourself that everything's going to come together and that you can bring it all together. I found these 2 case studies particularly stretching and challenging because they had loads of issues. Like the first client in Sweden, they had issues around procrastination, not being able to move forward. They couldn't even get out of bed to have a shower. So it's okay, I've got a whole host of things here, but I had to trust myself, and I worked with simple patterns, and I worked with the complex patterns with them, and we did a whole host of identity work as well. And there's actually a breakthrough on the second session, which was related to when the client was 30 years old. And I know not every client will cry during IEMT, but in this particular client, they were sobbing for ages. Like there'd been a massive breakthrough with the work that we did on their identity. And after that, a couple of days later, I got this really glowing feedback about how it shifted for them. And they just said it was like miraculous how it had worked for them. And, and even a few days ago, I got a message from them again saying that they're feeling really happy. They're feeling a lot lighter, and they're feeling excited about starting their business up. So this is like somebody I worked with probably less than a month ago now, and they're a completely different person just through that technique, all the practice that we did together, and it was only 2 sessions.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And like I said, so it has been a few weeks as well since the last session, so it's a lot of therapy, excuse me, even a lot of NLP and stuff, and hypnosis. It makes the person feel great. But then it's like, but what are they going? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change as a person in the long term. You know, that's why I do my interviews with my clients months after I've worked with them to show how it's kind of settled in. So the fact that they've contacted you, you know, several weeks after your 2 sessions to say things are really going well it's really good to actually keep in contact with people to see how they develop. And can you tell us a little bit about the other case study that you worked with as well?
Yeah,
and what that was like?
So the other case study was somebody in the UK, and they had very deep-rooted pattern of not feeling wanted, feeling stupid, just
we're just frozen out a little bit there. Can you just start that again? So it said not feeling wanted, feeling stupid, and what was that after them, please?
So the client was in the UK, and they were feeling stupid, that they couldn't do anything. Okay. They were also feeling they had very low self-esteem, and they also felt like they weren't wanted. So every part of their life, they felt the person didn't really want them, even in the relationship they had. Right. So again, we worked very much with the feelings, and we worked with the 3 pillars, and there was a lot of sadness there, and a lot of feeling, a lot of imprints. So we worked with the imprints. Yeah. And there were memories where the client couldn't access the emotion, but they had the memories, so we could use the simple patterns. And I didn't need to go into the story at all. And I kept saying, I don't need the story. But some people like to keep telling their story and almost forming their identity around it. So we kept it really simple. And again, by the second session, especially with the identity work again, the client suddenly felt much more positive about themselves. And they told me a story when they got in touch that there was a job application. Normally they wouldn't even look at it because they thought it was beyond them, but they saw the job application and they said to themselves, I'm going to give this a go. And they completed it and felt good within themselves. And they said the relationship has got better as well because they're not feeling so crap about themselves. Yeah. And again, I've had a really positive feedback from them, and they've used the word, it's miraculous, and thank you so much. The other thing I wanted to say was the psychological access cues. Accessing cues. That has also been very beneficial for both my clients because they were able to get into it very deeply. Yeah. And that's something that they've been doing themselves away from the sessions. And they said that they dip into it throughout the day. They need to. So I'm really happy that they've got that resource as well. Oh, that's great. That's really shifting them too. Brilliant. Because what we do is, if people are wondering what these different things are, basically we work in IEMT, we work with emotional imprints and identity imprints. So on the first day, we look at these 5 patterns of chronicity. We look at what Shila mentioned there, the 3 pillars, and that's how people structure their emotional cycles and how we look at the emotions to work on. And usually did you get it? When you explain that to somebody, they go, that's my life, basically. You usually get, they go, that's my life. And so what you'll do, you're looking for the points where you can create an exit, really. So we look at the sort of relevant emotions that we can then work on to find the imprint. So we use a simple pattern on a stuck one-off memory, and then we use the complex pattern, the integrative pattern on the imprint of the emotion. So it doesn't work on emotion, it works on the imprints. And then with the identity work, it's about their way of being in the world. But once you've done all the emotional work, the identity work is easier to do because it allows them to change more freely. And then we always finish off with something which is the physiological state accessing cues. And that's when you get somebody into a negative state, a kinesthetic state, physiological state, and you get them to physically change. And you actually, I suppose some people said it's quite similar to timeline in a way, which I suppose it might be. I've not done timeline, but apparently it's a bit like it. And you get them to go into future scenarios with this new feeling, and it's really good. And you can teach people to do this at home as well. So, and let me ask you, as a practitioner, how did it feel delivering IEMT? Because, you took it out the box and straight off the bat, you've had 2 clients. Because what I like to say is IEMT is learning a set of tools. It's like me giving you some spanners and screwdrivers. Because when I learned hypnosis and stuff like that, they said a lot of it's to do with your personality and your will. And I was like, well, that's not right. With IEMT, it's like, I'm going to teach you how to use this spanner. I'm going to teach you how to use this. So I think it's a much more rudimentary tools, and it's not to do with your personality. It's to do with learning the actual techniques and then practicing the techniques. And when you do the techniques, it gives you very reliable outcomes and responses. So how did you feel actually using the tools and techniques yourself? Yeah, like you say, it's like having a spanner and some tools in your toolbox. And so that's, in that you've kind of got everything you need. You're not missing any tools in that sense. But for me, it was very much like, okay, I understand the tools. maybe I've only used them a few times, but each time you use the tool, you get more out of it as well. So it becomes a lot richer and deeper. In other words, different aspects may come up around an experience a client's got, and you've got to really think about the tool that you've got and how am I going to use this. You know how to use it on a rudimentary level, as you say, but you really got to try and blend and weave things together as well. And understand how can you most effectively help the client. It's not just about doing things in a chronological fashion. Sometimes you've got to just know which is the best tool to get out of this moment. And I think that's where you have breakthrough moments with your clients, is because you know your toolkit very well, and you know which one you need to use for that session. And I know in some ways it might come across as a clinical process, but I do feel the person who gives the session and what they bring of themselves to the session as well really helps the client, because they build up the trust, they build up the rapport with you, and that helps them to let go and trust and to do the work with you as well. So I found
it is, because it is when people come for like hypnosis and stuff, they think they're going to come, close their eyes, and I'm going to create a change, which I suppose is right. But with IEMT, you're helping facilitate a change, and they're completely lucid. You're working with them to create that change. And really importantly as well, is you're giving them the ways of calibrating and measuring that change as well. You know, you're actually saying, out of 10, is it subjective or objective? How old does this feel? So you've got lots of actual calibration points. So it's not just like, does this feel better? You can actually write, you can put it on a graph if you want, you know, to the actual, see how people are progressing. So let me ask you, you're going to bring this to a close, but let me ask you, what kind of, how do I structure this? Going forward, what clients, say you want to work internationally. Now, what clients are you looking to work with? How do you see you using IEMT in combination? Because obviously you do NLP and other things as well. So how do you see you're going to integrate? Because that's what's really great about IEMT, is that it integrates really well with the therapy models. And so we're not saying you just have to do IEMT. You can use it with counseling, with hypnosis, with therapy, we've had chiropractors, opticians, we've had loads of different people, and they begin to really integrate the thing together. So how do you see you using IEMT in the future with your clients, and what kind of clients are you looking to now work with?
Okay. The clients I'm currently working with are women, and so some of the issues that women might have, especially around identity, self-esteem, the multitasking, and sometimes loss of confidence that can happen when they become mothers, or they have to go back to work, and you know, so it's transition points in women's lives. That's where I feel I can make a difference as well, because I do women's groups as well. But also I work a lot with Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in my workplace, and a lot of them also kind of have a backstory about the fact that, you know, that there's been racism. They talk about slavery and all sorts of things. So it's like, in some places there's an understanding about history, but in some places they're stuck as well in where they are in their lives, because that's become their identity. So I want to carry on working with them as well, and help them to become more empowered and not make that just their sole identity at times. And going forward, I've also, because I'm doing some work with the COVID-19 work at,
cool.
And I've done some work with when there's a natural disaster. So I'm a responder in natural disasters. So I've got some background in trauma, working with trauma. So I would like to try and apply this as well to people who have been through trauma, to in these sort of situations, there's an earthquake or There's a natural disaster. Like I did some work with Grenfell families as well. I didn't
Yeah.
know IEMT then. If I'd known
Yeah.
IEMT, it's been a very different experience as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
coupled the counselling, of course.
Yeah.
So they're the three categories. It's not like I'm spreading myself thinly, but they are the three main categories. They're the three main groups of people that are in my life, and I feel like I can give time to all of them and use this.
Wow. If people want to work with you or get in contact with you, do you have a website or any social media handles at all?
Yeah, so I've got a website which is currently being updated, but it's my name, www.shilajassal.com, and I have a second one which is www.infinitemiraclesiam.com. So either of those are good. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'll be delighted if anyone
Brilliant.
does.
I want to say massive thank you for taking this time out of your lunch hour. And no, it sounds like you've done some really, really great work with your, you know, I read your case studies and yeah, they're really good, really, really interesting to read. And I, basically continue to use IEMT in the future. And that's it. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to leave the viewers with at all? If they're at home thinking, should I do? Because the thing is with IEMT, it is like taking a bit of a leap of faith into slightly unknown way of working and stuff. So, but you obviously, you know, you heard about me through this webinar. We then did like this hour webinar, and I'm going to continue to do those. Like I said, I did a masterclass last week or something. Because I'm going to start teaching the actual thing online, you know, the actual weekend practitioner online. People wanted me to do it before COVID, but now we have to do it because of COVID, really, which opens it up. But the way that I will still be keeping the group small and using breakout rooms so people can work on each other still. So if imagine it's before February or whenever we did the webinar, and you've never seen IEMT or eye movements before. So imagine those kind of people. For somebody who's now been through the IEMT training and used it with clients, what do you have to say to people who are kind of on that fence about whether they should learn it or not?
I would say don't hesitate, that you'd definitely give IEMT a chance, go for it, because it is life-changing. And I'm sitting here talking about someone who's also worked on themselves with it, and I'm a completely different person, and people comment on it all the time. And I'm just talking in a few months' time, it's really shifted me. Someone who's worked with lots of different therapies in the past and hadn't quite got to the crux of the problem. But now having used IEMT and it has shifted, I would say if you don't want to spend years and years and years trying to heal something, you just want to get to the core of it, I would highly recommend IEMT. You deserve it. You deserve to make that breakthrough and changes in your life. So I would say absolutely give it a chance. And also I want to say what a great trainer, what an excellent trainer Matt is.
Thank you.
So I would completely endorse the course, and please go for it.
Well, thank you very much. And I do try to make the things, I've been on a lot of therapy trainings, a lot of them aren't very fun. You know, they're super serious. And so we're dealing with pretty horrible stuff, but we do it in a very loose frame kind of way. And the reason why I allow myself to do that is for a couple of reasons, actually. But the first reason is because I've got so much faith in the material and the techniques that it allows me to have like a looser frame, because we always stick to very rigid timelines. I know exactly what we're doing in a very modular formula and structure. But also, when you enjoy doing something, you're going to remember it more. Yeah. If you're just sat there in a room and I'm lecturing you about something, you're not going to remember that. If we're having fun as we're doing it, and then you're experiencing it as well and getting results and seeing the results of other people going on in the room as well, I think it just makes for a much richer experience. So then, this is what I always get when people finish the weekend. It's like, I can't wait to get out there and start moving eyes. And so cool. Anyway, thank you very much for your time once again. And please do keep in touch. Let me know how it goes with your future clients, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.